Hello everyone. Hopefully my voice is loud enough and you can hear me. Okay. So, welcome to tonight's episode. The winds of evolution. The winds of evolution are a suggestion that there is a sort of inconceivable force that to the mind of man comes across as a sort of Taoistic breeze, a sort of direction of the cosmos regardless of what man thinks. You can sometimes tune into the world in that way. The winds of evolution is one of the most important concepts I've developed. It points to a sort of revoking of the logos. You see, in ancient Greece, certain Greek philosophers, their world wasn't just objective. They weren't secular-minded people, even though they had certain secular values. They were people who acknowledged that there was a voice to the universe that appeared through the interior structure of the human being. They called this the logos. It was like sometimes you can speak to the world, but there are moments where the world speaks to you. And that's the logos. It's kind of like not in words, it's a language that has to do with moments of existence. It has to do with the hidden language of experiential presence and existential presence. You see, we tend to experience ourselves as people, and as personalities. Underlying this subjective projection of selfhood is a chaotically changing world. It's as if it depends on the weather, the beliefs of people. Imagine if it's a sunny place, it's too dry. Do you see? The people believe suddenly it never rains here. You see, it's suddenly like a rainy place, and it's like, man, the sun's never here. And so beliefs, believe it or not, are made by the confrontations, by the unsuccessful confrontations of, it's like there's an edge to the limit of your experience, but you don't want your search to be empty-handed, so you believe in something. The winds of evolution is how there is a sort of inner movement. Something is occurring behind our eyes that has to do with every heartbeat of our living species. There is a reason that we cannot conceive. It's a phenomenal thing. It's not easy to stop being a thought in a world that is run by thoughts. You see, every identity that you have ever considered has centered around an energetic force. For me, the free will is not just the personality. The free will is the access to the opportunity. Our minds open, our minds close. Sometimes we walk in the shade, sometimes we walk in the light. You see, the world is filled with stories. And eventually it will come down to which stories are assimilated by the majority, which stories are capture the attention of people. You see, in Western society, thoughts are taken with lesser regard, as if a certain thought has less value in Western society. And the reason is we get evidence of this behaviorally. So what that means is in Eastern cultures, the child is raised under the belief that there is God, and if he goes astray from the path, he's internally punished by his own conscience of being unethical. You see, it's as if the beliefs are strict. The person can't change how they have been introduced to the world. Now, what continues beyond this is the evolution of self. And so I want to share a quote from this poet, a very profound quote from a man named Jalaluddin Maulana Rumi. Jalaluddin Maulana Rumi says, I died as mineral and I became a plant. I died as a plant and I became an animal and I rose to animal. I died as an animal and I was man. When was I less by, why should I fear death? When was I less by dying? I shall die once more to soar with angels blessed. For even from angelhood I must pass on to that which no mind has ever conceived. What I'm saying, ladies and gentlemen, is that the winds of evolution, by the nature of evolution, are taking us beyond the conceivable reality, simply because the conceivable reality has been transformed into a room. Pretty much the eyes of the creature opened up and he's like, this thing I see in front of me, it's a place. The doubt of the core of the simulation was forgotten, and once that doubt was forgotten, life became a game of beliefs torn apart by various beliefs. Some moments I have been blessed and peace has found me. Some moments I have, in some sense, again stepped into the shade and I've seen the grace of this world leave. That means if somebody asked me, how was the world? Imagine after this lifetime, the attention found itself in a place of question. I would say I lived a life with many questions and few answers, yet in the living process, I realized the meaning of a living world. It's the spirit of continuity. Anytime you do not care for something that is alive, you have dishonored your own mind, and you will reap karmic consequences. There have been many times. For me, language, as my relationship with language became more sophisticated, my relationship with the objective world, I had to make a decision. I had to make a decision of what thought to accept and what thought not to accept. And so that game drove me to a point where I was like, okay, it doesn't matter what thought it is. It doesn't matter what archetype is accessible and the dialect comes. Some people, did you know that when Christ spoke about God, he did not say God, he said the Father. In some scholars say that is an archetype. That's an archetype that was accessible to him. There was no other archetype accessible. So similarly, you start paying attention to the archetypes of your life. You begin to see you're found in a society, especially if your attention has come to the West. You will see a society that is honoring freedom, but a freedom that does not know its boundary. It is as if it's a chaotic freedom. It's freedom, but it's chaotic. It is chaotic because there's a saying that says too much freedom is chaos. The reason is because if you have too much freedom, you will be changing too often, and because you're changing too often, you are never experiencing a sort of continuity. It's as if you carry no honor from this moment on to the next. You see, honor is a sort of momentum, intuitive inner psychological momentum that's built up. It's built up through behavior when you become self-aware. This is why the honorable man found himself, the humble man found himself close to the gates of paradise, as the Abrahamic religions suggest. Why is this, I thought? And I understood. Because the humble man, the honorable man, is being guided by the spirit and the wind of remembrance. It's as if those people who take the honorable path, their memories are guiding them through, are giving them somehow strength and continuing into this world. There are days I open my eyes and the world is a gentle place. There's days I open my eyes and the world is a chaotic place. There are days I open my eyes and it feels like eons. That it's like I've experienced in one moment, like literally I was waiting in line in the bank and I was so dehydrated that in that instant I experienced like eons. I felt like an eternal being in that moment, just waiting. And so I realized a lot of life is just waiting. It's certain, it's like chess. You make a move and then you watch. You make a move, then you watch, but you don't get too mechanical about it at the same time. For me, there is, how can I say it? I find that there comes a metamorphosis of the intelligence. That means first you're a body that is howling a brain around. And because you howl this brain around, you don't give it value, because matter has value. If matter is more real than your thoughts, your attention will go to matter. If your thoughts are more real than matter, your attention goes to your thoughts. And I've noticed this, I'll be honest, guys. Toronto is a very evolved country, Canada. It's like in regards to its consideration of its citizens. However, downtown Toronto, as I've walked, I'm just sharing my experience as a viewer, as a walker in those streets, somebody who's kind of like seen what's there. And I will tell you, downtowns of countries are where the defeated and the successful walk on the same streets, but in different worlds. Like literally, I was having a cigarette outside this 10 Dundas building, and I saw a person speak to themselves, but speak to themselves in a way where as if their imagination was more real than reality, so they had started ignoring reality, so they seemed out of their mind to others. You see, there's just like how there's too many optical illusions, and the easiest one is just get two mirrors and put them in front of one another. What can I say but that the world turns in many ways? I I want to read for you guys. Okay, this is too long. Okay, so this is something I wrote in 2017 at 9:32 p.m. on April 8th. And I'm going to read you. It's this poem I've written. I before giving these lectures and stuff, I opened up to communication through a sort of poetic lens. The poem I wrote in 2017, it's called Roars of Chaos. And it's from this poetry book. I've written the name here, Orderna Vina. Anyways, Roars of Chaos, that's the poem. So it begins. One night, as I was listening to the eternal song of my intuition, I began to see that it was never I, like the letter I in quotation marks, that it was never I who had seen. Where do such words lead? Soon revelation shall knock on the door that ordered hands have made. What is the secret of eons when with one whisper all minds can change? Wow. With one whisper all minds can change. That's the future, guys. The children that will be born on this planet will be the greatest action. Will change, will reformat the whole structure. Literally, it's just about efficiency and inefficiency. You put aside all the stories, it's pretty much how the behaviors, individual behaviors of human beings are leading to a collective atmosphere. That atmosphere, it's like it's literally divided into just thinking. It's like a world of atoms and fear. The winds of evolution move beyond the personality of the person. What that means is when you begin learning from the unknown, pretty much it's kind of like gaps in your inner, it's like your inner reality is laying itself over the outer reality. And when you begin to see gaps of meaning, you wonder about the overall structure. When you wonder about the overall structure, eventually the only place that you can truly find solace is the present moment. When you come to the present moment, the governance of your intelligence can shift in accordance to how purely you stop things. You are just still and silent, and literally thought doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you have thoughts or not, you know? What matters is the depth of the wonder of the question being asked, that why do you exist, and is this existence beyond the linguistic simulation? I want you to imagine that you are the first philosopher to ever get access to immortal technology. In a science fiction section of a novel I'm writing, there is this chapter about a philosopher. This philosopher has accessed immortal technology. What that means is he can never die, and so for hundreds of years he's been alive and just kind of in the state he's kept in regards to his immortality by choice, like he wanted to be immortal. This philosopher finds himself tormented by the consequences of a single ideology entering a social system and shifting it. The reason this philosopher is in some sense shocked by the consequences is because, ladies and gentlemen, we are natural because the definition of nature is a changing world. And so the moment we cannot accept change, we have denied the future. And when you deny the future, the past begins to devour you. What that means is this is why you must always provide a helping hand to your world. Because everybody is fighting a war, a battle you cannot see behind their eyes. Everyone. The rudest people are fighting the most harshest battle. Those violent are those poor souls being crushed under the feet of giants in regards to inner psychological constructs. It's so important that first we return to ourselves. We find nature in the heartbeat of our being. We are here as living beings, as biological beings. In some sense nowadays, due to a sort of modern technological invasion of biological space, what that means is technology is replacing things that were naturally done. When this occurs to an uncontrollable point, you might not believe it, but if all the wrong actions and inefficient actions for the civilization in one moment, like you turned off a switch and they stopped, you would not believe how many efficient actions will also stop. Because efficiency stays into power in comparison. This is why Machiavelli, Niccolo Machiavelli, has this kind of political kind of genius, some consider. He wrote this book called The Prince, kind of like a lesson, like a instruction booklet to the princes of the time. It's as if he had a royal soul, but he was not born in a royal family, something like that. Niccolo Machiavelli says it is kind of the signs of a sharp mind to have enemies. Like a sharp mind, keep your mind sharp by having enemies. And I wondered, okay, what the fuck, like why is this guy saying this? I realized what he means is be aware of the dualities that rule this world. You will find forces where you cannot do anything about. And you will see forces that you have already walked past as if your footprints were the size of mountains. The mind has an incredible ability to animate itself. It animates itself due to certain alignments. This is why a sort of ceremonial wisdom was accessible in ancient times, and it was forgotten in our modernity. Believe it or not, a lot of truth is simpler than conception. When it's simpler than conception, that means it cannot be storified. So what Mr.Within is saying, the whole species is trying to come to the same talking points of truth, yet realizing that you never can. The thing is, man, our species does not have the hands to hold truth. That means beyond our sensory data, there is no way that language can enter the meaning of language. Even though we are objective beings, but there is a sort of subjective dependence to our existence, you see? It's not just okay that you're just here and watching things. You know, I remember sometimes I would meditate in the yard and my father would come and say, like, stop me in a tree. And, you know, I understood. I understood how the mind can open to the same action in many ways. Somebody asked this wise man, he's like, yo, where's paradise? And the wise man's like, whoa, 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 how are you so casually asking that? And the person's like, bro, I'm alive once, just tell me, where can I find paradise? And the sage says, paradise is not somewhere you find. It is somewhere you're in. It is a state of being where liberation is an ultimate freedom. It is when your physical body becomes free of any ideological existence. In that instant, every sickness and issue leaves. The winds of evolution cleanse your being. And once that occurs, then it's just all that is left is you walk with the world hand in hand. Because it's easy to let go of efficiency. It is easy to be like, fuck it, I'll just go live on an island. You know? That's, if the island could speak, it'd be like, get off me and go work, bro. Because we are creatures that we start off as playing, and then we're introduced to a working system that takes away the playful aspect. Therefore, the intelligence locks down into this robotic way of expression. Do you know? So I feel, believe it or not, the way our economical structures shape the institutions and organizations that rise out of those, you know, the economical ecosystem. If they ask Mr.Within what was the first step towards, what was technology's first step into the mind of man, I would say it would be the creation of money. Prior to, of course, before, way before that is the creation of language. But I'm saying, like, after the creation of language, it is the creation of value. I want you to understand this, dear listener. The idea of value can change any time. And it changes in accordance to your direct attention. And your attention is your freedom. It is your moment. Your moment doesn't have to be given a story, but that doesn't mean it doesn't have a divine glow to it, okay? Divinity is any moment where the unknown moves knowledge. Reality is when the known moves the unknown. So that's why explorations are not treated as revelations. They're not traded. They are just extensions into what is the known. The knowledge is branching out. In another manner, there was no branch. Suddenly, out of nowhere, like the knowledge structures came in. So when you look at ideology, some people might not believe this, but I speak about this concept of the pilots of consciousness, and this is my way of kind of trying to start my own exhibition into the true questions of what the mind is. It's as if people don't believe their souls, but they believe they're their minds. But when you wonder what the mind is, it's not an objective phenomena, so what is it? And that's when language bows down to the present moment in utter silence. That is moksha. Moksha is literally you're entering a state. The state has nothing to do with the story. It has to do with your attention to your world, to your moment. And there you will feel the winds of evolution. And freedom cannot die in a world so alive. I'll be honest. Fear should not be the leader, but must be considered. Because you cannot seek change without changing. You cannot want to see something without seeing, without considering that when you see that thing, it will influence your psychological structure. So first, Mr.Within is saying, train your attention into noticing how thoughts move in the environment. You're not your thoughts. The thought is the appearance. It's as if your thoughts are the eyeballs, but what's looking through the eyeballs, or how consciousness is present, is the true sight. I hope this talk has served you. And I'll leave you off with a quote from Rabindranath Tagore, this Indian polymath, this next level, intelligent guy. He said, "I slept and dreamt that life was joy. I awoke and I saw that life was service. I acted and behold, service was joy. You must consciously serve the living world." And that is all that Mr.Within asked. You must care for what is here one more time. You must attempt at the truth one more time. You must run at the truth one more time. And I will tell you, it is those who truly succeed, where their effort has become endless because the outcome is their nature. Truth is so powerful that you cannot hold it in a concept. It's like a Pokemon, like Pokemon Ball, like in that show. Like you can't contain a living creature in a sphere. We are more than the stories we tell ourselves. We are more than how language was created, just like the caveman kind of smashing sticks and stones together. We create meaning, we update it, and in our attempt to update it, we find meaning in the expansion of our vision. We rage we rebel against a cruel world, and we rage as warriors who realize that the performance is now. Right now, your life is happening. You want to know where truth is? It's right now. Right now, where your consciousness is present. And it's just like how a person can sit on a chair, you'll suddenly realize your intelligence has to do with how you're holding your attention in the moment. It's so easy, you can navigate between different rooms. What I mean by that is that somebody could be talking about you, what you could be thinking about what you're doing 3 days from now. It's as if you're in one physical room hearing them, but internally in your mind you're in a totally different conception point. Your attention has in some sense been fragmented. There's no one way the human being can be, so we cannot be too strict on how things should be. But at the same time, we require a certain clarity that is respectful enough to maintain the technologies of the past. There's a talk I've given, it's called Ancient Scriptures from a Young Future. Plato says time is the moving image of eternity. Mr.Within will say, silence moves the noise. Stillness moves the movement, the dynamic. And non-existence moves existence. The unknown moves knowledge. The unknown is a source of it's like self-realization, but sincere. So you're not looking for something, you're just seeing what's here and going from there. There's something peaceful about that, something incredibly liberating about living your honest life. What that means is you are honest to how you are as a being, and you realize we're all temporary beings on this planet, so don't hold on to self-induced suffering for too long. Live. The only way to live for life is to live for life. You gotta live for the living world. Thanks for tuning in, guys. The winds of evolution direct us all.